והצלחה, עשייתא דשמיא גדולה, שכל בעצם התפילות שלנו יתקבלו ברצון, ושכולנו נזכה בעזרת השם לזמן של הגאולה, אמן כן יהיה רצון בעזרת השם. Today's class, רבותיי, we will do it in English, in order to include everyone, and that everyone בעזרת השם will be able to take home with them some guidance and maybe some words of Torah. Before we enter into the class, I would like to give a little bit of an introduction to the period of time that we are right now within the year. As we know, we just finished the holy holiday of Purim, and we are mamash starting the preparations and getting ready for the holiday of Pesach. A question that we always had in our mind is there any sort of connection between Purim and Pesach? And if there would be a connection, it would be some sort of like introduction of guidance of how we should act in this period between these two holy holidays. So we found something very interesting in the Gemara and Masechet Megillah that talks about this idea of connecting Purim and Pesach. How so? The Gemara talks about a situation where a leap year falls. Or in other words, what we call in Hebrew, Shana Meuberet. What is a Shana Meuberet? It is a year like this year, where there is Adar Aleph and there's Adar Bet. We discussed last class, technically, what should be the real month that we do the whole Chagiga and the whole celebration of Purim. And from a technical sense basis, it all makes sense that it should be read when? On Adar Aleph. But the Gemara says that Rabban Gamliel got up, he was the head of the Sanhedrin, and he said that the reading should be done in Adar Bet. Why is that? So he says, Bichdei lismoch geula legeula, in order to put a redemption close by, near another redemption. And now, but this Gemara raised a question within our mind regarding what are we considering Purim and Pesach in the first place. We know that Pesach is a day of redemption, a day of geula, but not just a geula of the past. We also hold that Pesach will be a geula of what? Of the future, of the geula, of what's to come, of the present, of the redemption that we are all waiting for. So Pesach, I understand how we can call it geula, redemption. But where is the geula in Purim? Where do we see that there's some sort of a connection within Purim that even makes any sort of level of like geula from the first place? So in order to understand this, we wanted to look really, what is this essence of Purim? And why does Purim need to be so close to Pesach to begin with? So now, Zohar HaKadosh says that Purim is a very, very unique day. It's a very unique day, being that it's one of the two holidays that even after the redemption, after Mashiach Tzidkenu will reveal himself, will not be cancelled, will stay. And we asked ourselves, why is Purim a day that will stay after the Geula? It doesn't seem like there's anything holy about it or anything extra special about it to keep it after the Biat Mashiach Tzidkenu. What's so special about it? The Zohar HaKadosh says a sentence that really gives us a little bit of an understanding of the entire holiday of Purim and its true meaning in our world, in our year. Zohar HaKadosh says Purim is a day of Machshava Elyona. What does that mean? It's the day that we live within HaKadosh Baruch Hu's idea, thought of how the world should be. So, we know that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, He didn't intend the world to be the way it is now. He didn't intend for evil. He didn't intend for suffering. He didn't intend for bad. He didn't intend for sin. He intended to have a world which is perfect, a world which is like, we call it in English, it's a word that someone told us, like a utopia. Something that is complete from all aspects, from all angles, from everything. That was the world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had in mind. Zohar HaKadosh says, on Purim, we live within a day that exists within how HaKadosh Baruch Hu pictured the world. And we try our best to imitate it. So on Purim, we act like each one can dress up and be whoever he wants to be. In Purim, there's no bad. In Purim, a A person used to drink until there's no bad. Even Mordechai, Aman, they're all the same level. In Purim, like what the Bnei Yisachar says, we give matanot la'avyonim, we give tzedakah, we give mishlochim manot. What's the purpose behind it? It's this idea of sharing. It's the idea that everything that belongs to each individual belongs to all Klal Am Yisrael. Everybody is equal. Purim is a day that we pretend, we act like the Geulah already arrived. And being that it's a day that we treat it like it's the Geulah already arrived, it's a day that never gets cancelled. Because you can't cancel a holiday of Purim, which will already be like every day at the time of the Geulah. So Purim is a day that will not be cancelled because it already exists within a world of Geulah. It already exists within a perfect world. It already exists within a world of complete redemption. Now that we understand this, we can understand why Purim and Pesach are connected and must be close to each other and have a big correlation of how we must take our energies, leaving Purim and entering into the preparation of Pesach. Why is that? We say that Pesach is Geulah. Pesach atidim b'nei Yisrael ligael. In Pesach, we hold that the redemption of La'atid Lavo, what will come, should be on that date. What better way to prepare us for a world of Geulah like tasting it in our own mouth? What better way to prepare all of us as a nation for a time where the world will be perfect and to crave it and to want to bring it upon us, like being able to celebrate it and live within it, us, ourselves. Not hear it, not learn it, not be told by it, to feel it with our own hands. The idea of Purim was always to inspire us, to give us the ratzon, to give us the desire, to want a world which is a world of Geulah. And that's why Chazal say that a person needs to try hard to drag Purim throughout the entire year. What does that mean, to drag Purim throughout the entire year? What's the point of that? How can you drag Purim throughout the entire year? Why Purim so special that we don't say drag Pesach, we don't say drag Chanukah, we say drag Purim. Why drag Purim? Because dragging Purim throughout the entire year would be a world that the Geulah already revealed itself. It would be a world the Geulah already exists. And that's why we say, in the end of Masechet Megillah, the last few words of Chazal speaking about Purim was what? 30 days before Pesach, we must start to study halachot of Pesach. Why? Why specifically in the end of Megillah we start to hear this concept of we must study halachot Pesach? So maybe we can say that what is halachot Pesach? It's preparation for Geulah. It's preparation for redemption. And 30 days before Pesach is what? It's Purim. So on the day of Purim, we taste Geulah, and on the day of Purim, we inspire ourselves to desire Geulah, and on the day of Purim, Bezat Hashem, we will start the Geulah that will Bezat Hashem be revealed this year, in the holiday of Purim, Amen, and Pesach, Amen, Kinyatzon, Bezat Hashem. Now, Botai, being that we just spoke about this idea of the time of Purim, Pesach, following Pesach will be Sfirat HaOmer in preparation for Shavuot, we would like to truly try to put into perspective a little bit of the guidance that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us throughout this time. We know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us in a time where there is no prophets, there are no extraordinary individuals that can lead us through periods of time, but instead we rely on the order of the Torah. And this is where Chazal say that nothing is for no reason, that every single parasha and reading that we read has great significance on that period of time. And to a certain degree, we even act like the reading of the Torah is our guidance and our leading, our sense of being led by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, navigating through different times of the year and through different times of our life. So you know, Botai, that every single year, we read in this period of time, between Purim, Pesach, and Shavuot, we read one book. And it's a book that we just started. The book of what? The book of Vayikra. Now, obviously, if we read the book of Vayikra every year throughout the same period of time, it must have great connection and significance on that time on how we should be led, on how we should feel, how we should act, what opportunities we should take in our hands. So what really is it? So today I would like to truly come to a place of understanding what is Vayikra and what can we take within our own lives and apply to better ourselves and to prepare ourselves for a better time within our world. So in Abotai, the book of Vayikra was a book that was always very, very strained in our eyes. Where there was a question that every year when we reach to the book of Vayikra, our minds get bothered of this lack of, you can call it sense even, with what we call the book of Vayikra and what really exists within the book of Vayikra. The Midrash Tanchuma says that the book of Vayikra received like some sort of Chniyat Shem, like a nickname, of the house of Bniyat Dirato Batachtonim. Or in other words, we call the book of Vayikra the book in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu builds his home within the Tachtonim. What is the Tachtonim? We know there is the Elyonim, which is the worlds above, and there is the Tachtonim, those who are below, our world. The book of Vayikra is the book that talks about the Mishkan, the building of the Mishkan, the building of the tools of the Mishkan. And that is why the Midrash called it the book of building the home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our world. But Abotai, when we look into the book itself, we see that throughout the entire book of Vayikra, it almost rarely talks about building a home for Hashem. And mostly focuses on one subject. Focuses on the subject of what? Korbanot. What are korbanot? Sacrifices. The sacrifice of sin, the sacrifice of gratefulness, the sacrifice of olah, all different sacrifices. The question, Abotai, that we had is, if this is truly a book about building the home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, about building the house of Hashem, why would Hashem put so much emphasis and so much attention on sacrifices in his home? You think about a home, you think about warmness, you think about comfort, you think about life, you think about love, you think about being at peace. You don't think of a slaughterhouse. So how do we hold that the whole book of Vayikra is building the house of Hashem, and at the same time almost only talk about sacrifices? How does this make sense? How does this fall in any way of understanding that the house of God, the house of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, was built to, in practice, be a home that from the morning to the night, Bnei Yisrael came forward and sacrificed and sacrificed and sacrificed and sacrificed. And what can we learn from this? So in order to understand this question that for years bothered us, I really want to understand what really is Beit HaMikdash. Because we clearly need it within our lives. We clearly pray every single day that Be'ezrat Hashem will build Beit HaMikdash. What is Beit HaMikdash? And what is it really a home for HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world? So in order to understand this, we have to see really where Beit HaMikdash sits within HaKadosh Baruch Hu's importance. Zohar HaKadosh says that the building of the Beit HaMikdash and the Mishkan was never a part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's plan. But within Hashem's plan, building a home such as Beit HaMikdash and Mishkan wasn't at all in the vision and wasn't at all set to be. Where can we learn this from? Where can we see this? We can see this even at the time when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, he created animals and mountains and rocks and gold and materials. And the one thing he didn't create would be the thing that you would think he would create, which is what? A home for himself. So we clearly see that Beit HaMikdash was not on HaKadosh Baruch Hu's, like you can call, desires or to-do list. Agenda. Beit HaMikdash was actually something that came way after. So where was HaKadosh Baruch Hu's home at the time of creating the world? Until when he actually asked Bnei Yisrael to create a home for him. Zohar HaKadosh says something incredible. Zohar HaKadosh says that the original home and the home that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had in mind when resting his presence in this world was always and will always be the same thing. Which is what? Zohar HaKadosh says, not a building, not a tent, not a mishkan, but what? In Adam. A man. Why in Adam? Why a man? Zohar HaKadosh explains that the structure of man was always made in a very unique way, and was always made in a manner to hold HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence. Adam was built from two different worlds and two different aspects that on surface level don't have any connection with one another. On one side, we all hold a body, and we call this body like a guf of a chaya, like an animalistic body. And it's clear. We have lungs, brain, heart, eyes, nose, liver, blood, the veins. We all have the same parts that all the other creations have in this world. We have nothing different on a body level. So we have essentially a suit which allows us to exist within this world and function within this world, an animalistic body. But what made Adam unique was what? That he had a neshama that didn't even hold a place within this world, a neshama that came from a much higher level that worked in complete synchronism with the body. And as a result of that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose Adam to be the optimal place in where he can rest himself. Why? On one side, the Adam holds the animalistic body, but his brain is where? His conscious is where? It's completely in higher worlds. Where conscious is something that the most smart scientists, the most intelligent people will never be able to grasp and to hold and to understand what exists within our mind. Being that we share essentially 50% of what? Of divine presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is essentially also a big reason of the way we were designed. We said we were built in whose image? In HaKadosh Baruch Hu's image. Why? What was the purpose of making us in God's shape? So, the answer to that was always because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to live within us. Wanted to walk within us. Wanted us to represent Him within this physical world. And being that, the home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu will always set being what? Being within the Adam, within the man. Zohar HaKadosh says that when Adam sinned, he didn't bring blemish to the body, to the soul. The soul stayed intact. His consciousness stayed the same way. The spirituality is unharmful. And we mentioned that in the last class. Was about this idea that you cannot dirty your soul. As much as a person can be bad, his soul will always stay pure. Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek le'olam. But the soul is always pure. The soul is always clean. You can't blemish the soul.
So what does it mean when they said שחזרת נשמתי, like in the morning?
That's a big inyan. But if you want to get into detail, after the Shiur Torah, about the neshama and how the neshama even comes down, who holds the neshama, and even worse, who doesn't hold the neshama, that's a long teaching that maybe after the Shiur Torah, if we have some time, we'll get into it. When Adam sinned, the blemish was brought to only one aspect, which is the aspect of what? Guf. The aspect of the guf. Where the guf no longer held its purity. Zohar HaKadosh says, as a result of that, as a result of the sin, the neshama and all the spirituality said, I can't handle this. I cannot be in a suit, in a body that is dirty, a body with a sin. And from here, Zohar HaKadosh says that the sin of Adam created a pirud. What's pirud? Separation. A separation in what? A separation in many places. As we know, the sin of Adam broke our world. And that's what we call Yeridat Adorot, where essentially the world of Asiyah, our world, was supposed to be physical globe with a spiritual globe that exists within it. And at the time of the sin, spirituality split and no longer existed within one another. That's an aspect of the world. But the separation that affected man in the most prominent way was the separation of the neshama, of the spirituality, of the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and within the body. Where the body and the neshama were no longer on the same page. We're no longer working together. We're no longer striving to be in synchronism with one another. And from here we learn, and from here started the biggest fight that ever exists within a man's life. The fight of the body, the animalistic suit that pulls us down to act like our fellow brothers, creations, the animals. And the neshama, the spirituality that wants to pull us up and say, no, we're not a part of this world. We're essentially hold a greater place in the world to come. Zohar Kadosh says, the greatest fight that existed and that exists within a man's world is a fight between the spirituality that exists within him that pulls him up and the material goof that he holds that tries to pull him down. And that's our mission. Our mission in our world is not to fix the world, to fix everything, to fix everybody. It's to fix ourselves. It's to bring our body to a place where it's pure enough that our neshama, our spirituality, can live within us. Our job is to bring back the status amongst us of Adam. Well, what is an Adam? Like we just mentioned, Adam was always so unique that it shared this character of having half physical and half spiritual. And at the time of the sin, we lost that stamp, that chazakah of an Adam. We lost that titlement of an Adam because we lost what made us so unique. Which was always what? Which was always the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the presence of our spirituality in complete unity with our goof. And that's where we could even see, right after the sin, how Adam reacted. We know Abutai, but right after the sin, what did Adam do? How did Adam feel? It's the one thing that we know that Adam felt. He felt what? Shame because of what? Shame because of what?
Because of his sin.
Shame because of what? No.
Because he looked like an animal.
No,
Because it says that he looked down, and what did he realize? He says, I'm not dressed. When he felt uncomfortable within his skin, or in other words, he felt the weight of his skin.
Yeah.
He felt that his skin was there and it wasn't covered.
It was light.
The feeling that Adam received after the sin itself wasn't any destruction, but the destruction existed within him. Where he no longer held titlement of Adam. And now became what? Like we say, Adam u'be'ema toshia Hashem. That Hashem helps men and he helps be'emot. What's be'emot? He helps men that have the titlement of man, meaning of Adam, and he helps men that have the titlement of what? Of those who lost their spirituality that exists within them. And that, Rabotai, is our mission. Bring back the Adam within us. And once we bring back the Adam within us, we essentially become a keli of not only being one with our neshama and one with our spirituality, but being a keli of receiving the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the question is, Rabotai, on all what is mentioned, where does Beit HaMikdash fall? Where is the place of Beit HaMikdash in this idea of the home of Hashem is really us and not a building? And how does Beit HaMikdash really fit within this idea of the home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu always being us and always will be us? How did it fall within this order? So in order to understand this, there's a beautiful Gemara in Masechet Sukkah that gives a little bit of, like a hint of where Beit HaMikdash falls. It says in Masechet Sukkah that there were 10 miracles that occurred in Beit HaMikdash. Now we have to understand what a miracle is. A miracle is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going out of his way to show something, or something that is out of the pattern of the nature. It's something that goes out of that pattern, something unique, something unexpected. Just to mention a few that maybe catch our eyes. It says, Beit HaMikdash, as we mentioned a moment ago, it was like a slaughterhouse. Millions of animals were being slaughtered. But still, there wasn't one fly. And the smell of meat did not even come close. The smell of meat was unpresent. It smelled like it was a warm home. Another miracle, like what Rabbi Yosef said, a woman never had a miscarriage, chas v'shalom. Another miracle, that it said that when they would bake the bread, when they would pull out the bread was what? Always fresh and hot. So we asked, what's the point of all these miracles? These seem miracles that are just odd, and they don't fall in place within reason. So we said, maybe we can say, and based off the Ramak, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, something like this. Beit HaMikdash, according to the Ramak, always had one purpose in mind, which was what? It was an idea of taking physical and taking spiritual and intertwining both of them together like one. Where the essence of Beit HaMikdash was always a place where physical and spiritual meet. But not only meet, they reunite and they become one force. We said maybe we can say that the idea of those 10 miracles that were brought was just the result of Beit HaMikdash's job of unifying the spiritual and the physical. How can we understand this? When an animal is no longer alive, what's the cause of him no longer being alive? No, what's the cause?
Somebody is
His nefesh, spirituality left. Once the spirituality left, what happens to the meat?
Rots.
right.
It starts to smell bad. It starts to smell like a place of lack of presence of Hashem. In other words, lack of presence of spirituality. Maybe we can say that Beit HaMikdash was so powerful. What did it do? It took the spirituality even within the animal, and it sowed the spirituality to the body so much that even after the nefesh, the life of the animal, was no longer present, still it never separated. Still it was always one. The same thing you could say about a woman that never had a miscarriage. That the whole idea of Beit HaMikdash was unifying the body and the soul, the body and the spirituality to such a level that, chas v'shalom, a miscarriage, death, was never possible there. Bread, what's the concept of baking bread? It's a new creation. You bring new life to it when it bakes. The bread always stayed hot. The bread always stayed fresh. It always stayed like life was just put within it. The idea of Beit HaMikdash was a place where physical and spiritual no longer existed as two different entities, but reunited and became what? Became one. But one bishlemut, all aspects. One bishlemut to a level of the greatest heights.
It was like Adam.
So,
because all Israel תרומה, הביאו תרומה,
so,
כל החומריות כדי ליצור את הגוף הזה כמו אדם, אבל הפוך.
רבי דולב קודש קודשים. אין, רבי דולב הוא...
כל הכבוד.
רבי דולב הוא אחד מהצדיקים הראשונים שהכרנו פה בעיר. ברוך השם. תלמיד חכם גדול. רבי דולב, תלמיד חכם... הוא לא נראה, אבל תלמיד חכם. כל הכבוד. So the question, רבותיי, is where did Adam fall in all this too? Where do Bnei Israel fall into this Beit HaMikdash? So we said, Rabotai, what is a sin? A sin from the root of it all was what? A separation. Where the body is dirty and the soul no longer could be one. And as long as the body is dirty, what occurred? It's a big separation where the man was no longer Prinat Adam. Was no longer an aspect of man, being that he followed his animalistic instinct to sin, to go downwards, versus following his neshama, his spirituality, to go where? To go upwards. The reparation of the sin, in its essence, wasn't even taking a hammer and a screw and fixing it. It was just causing the spirituality and the physical to once again be able to reunite, to become one. How was this done? Very simple. The man would go, he would bring a cow, a sheep, a goat, in other words, an animal, and he would come to Beit HaMikdash. And he would say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I no longer want to walk downwards in the path being led by the animal. The animal within me will no longer lead. I want you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to take the animal within me and make it go up. Make my body pure. Make my body kadosh. Send the animal with me to a higher place within this world. And as a result of that, he would take, essentially, that chaya, that animal, burn it, sanctifying his own body, cleaning his own body, and as a result of that, receiving the titlement of what? of Adam. And that's where we open up the book of Vayikra. Adam ki yakriv michem korban laHashem. What is Adam? We know that Adam is a name. It's not just, vadai, plural. Nachon. What is Adam? In Hebrew we call Adam man. But Adam is a name. In English we call Adam what? It's with Adam and Eve. Adam and Chava. It's the actual Adam that we're talking about. It's a name of a person, not just a word for a creation or an existence. Adam was the name of a person. When we say Adam ki yakriv, it's not just talking about a man. It's referring to a man that has the desires to be what? To be an Adam. To be like Adam HaRishon, which was what? A home for HaKadosh Baruch Hu before the sin, before he lost his entitlement of Adam. Maybe we can say the whole idea of the Korban was what? The whole idea of Beit HaMikdash, the idea of the sacrifice was always what? It was not a home for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But what? A place in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu's home gets created. A factory of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's homes. Where within every single man it was a potential home for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when they entered into Beit HaMikdash and they exited, only then them themselves became a Beit LaHashem. A home for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to exist within. And we see it even in the name. We call the home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Beit HaMikdash. Why don't we call it just Beit Hashem? Why Beit HaMikdash? Because Beit HaMikdash, its purpose was always Lekadesh. And once there is Lekadesh, then there is a Beit for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Once there is sanctity, once the body and the neshama exist, and there is an Adam, and there is a man, and there is a unity within the neshama, within the guf, only then the home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu exists. And this, Rabotai, is a big lesson. Beit HaMikdash was never supposed to be a building, and it failed as a building. To the point where HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, it's not working. And because it's not working, I will take it away, I will destroy it. What was not working? What was not working? That the Beit HaMikdash was not keeping the home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In what sense? In the sense that even though Beit HaMikdash existed, Hashem still had no place to dwell. Because the hearts of Bnei Israel, the bodies of Adam, they kept on sinning. So the home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu was never supposed to be a building, and will never be a building. But always be what? Be within each and every one of us. And this, Rabotai, needs to be a big lesson for all of us. We are all waiting, it's like we even call it in humor, waiting for Mashiach. We're all waiting for Mashiach. We're all waiting for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to build a building, to build his home. And what we don't understand is that we could. There's nothing to wait for. It's in our hands to build a home for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We just need to get up and to desire to do it. Because the material of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's home will not be a building. And we wrote an entire concept about this, and maybe we'll get into it after the class. Of this idea that Beit HaMikdash is already here. And there's no need of a third Beit HaMikdash from the sky falling. We never seen a building fall from the sky. We're not going to see one suddenly. He asked Bnei Israel to build a Mishkan. He asked Bnei Israel to build Beit HaMikdash. He had no idea. It was never in his plan to have a physical building. We have to understand that the home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu cannot be relying on waiting for something. It needs to be something that we get up and we decide to build. We decide to put it together. We decide to make a place for HaKadosh Baruch Hu within ourselves. And only once we will do so, and only once we will have a home for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where he will be present within us, where our shape will match of his, Kedushim Tiyu Ki Kadosh Ani. Only then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will have a place where Bezrat Hashem can dwell within the world. We can see this, Rabotai, and we can learn that it's a very simple recipe. It's bring Hashem within your life. Bring Hashem within your heart. Create a place for him within you. We can even say this with the name of Adam. We know Adam is spelled how? Aleph, Dalet, Mem. Rabbi Chaim Abulafia, one of the greatest Mikubalim that ever existed, says that Adam is actually an acronym for what? for Adam, David, and Mashiach. Adam, David, Mashiach. What's the connection between all these three? What's the connection? How will all these three have anything to do with each other? So maybe we can say something like this. Adam, we know what that means. It means a man that holds the titlement of man, which is a man that holds the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that his spiritual and his physical are one. David was able to bring that to fruition.
Say it again.
David was able to repair that sin of Adam. David was able to bring Adam back to the aspect of Adam. First of all, we know that David's years are from the years of who? Of Adam. So it makes sense that David would fix Adam's tikkun.
Yeah.
If he took years from him and he lived as him 70 years,
Yes.
there must be some sort of correlation between their lives. It said David HaMelech, Chashavti derachai, he would sit down at his home and he would say, I want to go now to the grocery. And he would leave his home, and where would he end up? Beit HaMikdash. What is David trying to teach us here? What was his mission? What was his goal? The idea was simple. The idea is to reach back to an Adam. What's an Adam? An Adam is an aspect that even his legs were so much in unity with his neshama that his legs would take him to Beit HaMikdash. His legs would take him to Beit Knesset. That is the level that we have to reach. And when we will reach to that level, we will reach to a place of what? We will reach to a place of being worthy and being a keli to receive the last letter, which is what? Mashiach. The Geula, the redemption. That is the recipe for redemption. That is the recipe for Geula. So understanding, Abotai, that now that we are entering into a period of time that exists within preparation for Geula, we have to get up and go to action. We can't sit anymore and wait for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to build a building for us. We must get up now and do our part. Build our piece of the home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of the Beit HaMikdash within our world. And that's something, Abotai, that we all need to start today if we even want, Be'ezrat Hashem, to hope for a Mashiach to come forth. But now, Abotai, this idea of building a home for HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes even further than just fixing oneself, than just fixing one's body around him. Arizal explains the word of that midrash of dira b'tachtonim in actually a completely different way. And we believe that this was really an understanding of one simple act or one simple goal that we can reach to that can completely transform and change our life in all aspects. Arizal says, what is dira b'tachtonim? Or in translation, for those who don't understand Hebrew, dira, home, b'tachtonim, for those who are below, meaning our world, the lowest world, Asya, or the physical Asya. Arizal says, dira b'tachtonim is simple. Dira b'tachtonim is being able to recognize and to see Hashem's presence and Hashem's involvement where?
In each one of them.
Within the teva.
Oh.
Or meaning, within the nature.
Nature.
Within the world around you. And once a person reaches to an aspect of seeing HaKadosh Baruch Hu within the teva, within the nature that surrounds him, Arizal says, the home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is no longer just yourself, but it becomes what? The home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu becomes the entire world. Because the moment that you were able to visualize and to recognize that even behind this plate, behind this cup, it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu that's involving, it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu that's holding it up. It means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is present within everything. So what's stopping us from reaching that level? I guess it's simple.
It's a miracle.
It's what stops us from seeing HaKadosh Baruch Hu's involvement within every single aspect of the world?
It's our separation.
Our separation. If you can't be within unity within your own spirituality, how will you understand and be able to see the spirituality around you? HaMikdash says that the secret that the tzaddikim always saw a perfect world was the idea that the tzaddikim always saw every single thing that exists within the world, perceived to be good or perceived to be bad according to the world, as one big what? As one big miracle, as one big ness, as one big act of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And even our father and our uncle, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give them refuah shelema,
Amen.
said, our grandfather, Rabbi Moshe Pinto, always had this custom. They always seen as foolish. Chas v'shalom. Our father always told that Rabbi Moshe, anything he did, he was mesmerized by it.
Was what?
Mesmerized. Why be'elim?
Well,
He would open up a bottle. Wow. He would open up a bottle. He would say, look, a miracle. He would open up the door with a key. He would call his kid. He said, look, only this medal opens the door. The other ones don't. This medal is a miracle. And every single thing, he'd open up a shelf. He said, look how the hinges move. It's a miracle. It's so extraordinary. So we thought to ourselves, where did this come from? It's simple. It comes from a person being so in touch with his spirituality, that he realizes that the entire world around him is one big what? Miracle. One big miracle. One big spirituality. So what prevents us from seeing that? The answer is simple. It's our involvement and our being led. From being led. Us being led. Muvalim, in English. It is, everyone understood. Leaded. Our idea of being leaded by the teva. Being leaded by the nature. And the stronger the nature that exists, meaning the more predictable we understand the nature, the harder it is to see Hashem.
אבל, מחילה נקודו. זה נכון לראות שאין מציאות לטבע בשביל אינדיבידואל, לא בשביל אנשים אחרים. זה ראייה נכונה.
מאיזה בחינת צדיק? אנחנו לא מבינים את השאלה.
לדעת שבטבע אין מציאות. זה לא מציאות, זה אחיזת עיניים.
So the question is that, can we say that within the nature it's all one big illusion? Yeah. Not really. No. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu did create rules for this world that even He follows. You say HaKadosh Baruch Hu manhig et ha'olam b'derech ha'teva. Teva is rules, it's predictability that He set in motion, that He follows Himself. Zeo, He follows Himself. Anything He leads within this world, He must follow within those rules that He set for Himself within this world. That's the teva. The problem is when we start to control the teva to such a degree where we completely tear out Hashem's presence within it. And we can give an example. The stronger we become on the nature, the more miracles become, presence of Hashem becomes almost unseen. Tzaddikim, take this. Go back 40 years.
That would be a God.
Tell them this. Tell them there will be a piece of metal and glass that you could see visions of people from the other side of the world. Or you can see, they would say this glass is magic. It's a miracle. It's the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu within the world. But the more grasp we get on the nature, the harder it is to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then, at that level, what's necessary is a wake-up. And that wake-up is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kindness upon all those who are so lost within the teva that they'll never be able to visualize the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Which is what? It's a nes. What is a nes? A nes where HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes the predictability of the nature, throws it out the window, and does something completely different. And that allows us to be able to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then have a choice whether or not we want to follow the animal or we want to follow HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the spirituality within us. And we see that with Pesach, and we see that with Mitzrayim. We know the Egyptians, they had such a grasp on the Teva, or even the Navi calls them a nation of animals. But their animalistic being that was within them was so powerful that they controlled the Teva. Look, 3,000 years later, they built those pyramids that till today we don't understand how they built it. That's what someone told us. We're not sure if that's accurate, but if it is, buildings that with all the technology that we have, we are unable to understand how they were built. And that level of achiza, of hold on the Teva, it would be impossible to see Hashem. And we even go further and said, Bnei Israel reached to a place that if they were to go a little bit further, there would be no coming back. They were in the 49th level. If they were to reach to the 50th, there would be no return to it. In order for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to pull us out from that great tyranny of the control of the nature, what did he need to do?
To change the nature.
Miracles. And this is how,
Bend old nature.
this is how, and this is why we see Bezrat Hashem, the upcoming holiday of Pesach. It's a holiday of what? Nisim. Miracles. Things that define all laws of nature that HaKadosh Baruch Hu set in this world. Things that go against all predictability that man was able to accomplish on how the world functions. What was the purpose of those miracles? What was the purpose of all those deeds? It was giving man a chance to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and once seeing HaKadosh Baruch Hu outside the Teva, we see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now you have the choice whether to follow HaKadosh Baruch Hu within or without the nature, or Chas v'Shalom return back to your old ways of following what? Following the nature. And that's what occurred. He shook the world, shook Bnei Israel, revealed himself with a miracle, and then we see what follows right after. This is what? Hashem calls Bnei Israel. And he asks from Bnei Israel 2 mitzvot. What were these 2 mitzvot? Who can tell us? No. HaChodesh hu lachem, counting the month according to the moon. And the second one, in the same sentence, Korban Pesach. Why those 2? So, maybe we can make some sense into it. Korban Pesach, it's clear. It's easy. Why? Because the Korban, we mentioned it's what? No, put that aside. You can even add that too. But what is Korban Pesach? To create.
Your animalistic side.
To create an Adam. To get rid of the animalistic instinct. And to be once again a man. To uplift, to sanctify the body and to be an aspect of an Adam. But why HaChodesh hu lachem? Why counting the moon? As our calendar at least. We say it. En chadash mitachat shemesh. There is no new under the sun. Why? Because the sun is predictable. The sun is nature. It's teva. It comes out in the morning the same brightness. It goes down 12 hours later, and it repeats itself, and repeats itself, and repeats itself, and repeats itself. And nothing changes within the sun. The sun is the essence of predictability and this idea of Chas v'Shalom following nature. But the moon is something completely different.
But how the sun is
The moon is this idea of what? Of being able to visualize and to notice Hashem's involvement in the world, not through a miracle, but through what? Through the nature itself. We're in the beginning of the month of the Hebrew calendar. The moon is what? Very small. And then we see the moon grows and becomes full moon. And then it shrinks, it becomes small again. And it renews itself and renews itself and renews itself. And this idea all being what? Being something that Bnei Israel can hold to understand what? To understand that behind the nature exists what? Exists presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now we can understand why the mitzvah of the moon was Biriyah. Chidush HaChodesh. Renewing of the month is a mitzvah that we do with what? With our vision. And we look and we say, look, Rabotai, the moon is being renewed. What is this new moon being renewed? We say HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mechadesh Betuvo Bechol Yom Maseh Bereshit. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is active within His nature every single day. Our job is to see it, to be able to recognize it, to be able to find Hashem's involvement within our world. Not through rare miracles that occur that we say we're not allowed, and we don't rely on the miracle, but through the simple acts that exist on a daily basis, and to be able to notice it. Now this is an explanation that we didn't hear before, but makes so much sense. It says that whenever the new moon started to be seen, there was a sequence of events that need to occur. What's the first one? That two witnesses need to come forward and testify. They have to say, Rabotai, the moon is being renewed. Tough, that's fine. But it says that there's a lot of rules that were required of these witnesses to be kosher. And one of the most strange ones, like mentioned in Chosh Mishpat and Lamed Gimel Lamed Dalet, that a person that misachek pakubia, pasul, a man that does gambling, or it says races horses, or lets dogs fight, or whatever, or pigeons, he's not kosher to witness on the new moon. Why? What's the connection between gambling and seeing something that is happening? They shouldn't have any connection between them. So maybe we can say simple. What is the moon? What is Chidush HaChodesh? It's looking up and saying, look, Rabotai, Kadosh Baruch Hu is behind even the nature. But if you are able to come forward and to say that, how can you rely on luck? How can you rely on something that's like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not present? It's just a tziruf mikrim. It's just a luck that fell in the right place in the right time, so I won. If you believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is behind the nature, then go to work, have a job, and you'll have the exact same amount of outcome from that avodah. But a person that is unable to believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is behind his world, how can he testify that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is renewing the moon? How can he testify that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is active within this world in the way of teva, in the way of nature? It's impossible. From here we can understand the idea of when a person brings HaKadosh Baruch Hu within his world, he doesn't only just have HaKadosh Baruch Hu rest within him, but he essentially conquers the world and makes the entire world a place in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu can dwell within. Makes it a place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu can call it home. And this ties together all the secrets of events. We live at a time of galut. Teva is at the utmost strength. In order to be able to visualize the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what do we need? We need a miracle. What's that miracle? Pesach. What's Pesach? A time when Hashem shook the nature and woke us up. But even after Pesach, what was given to man? A choice of how he wants to lead himself. Whether or not you want to climb the mountain Har Sinai and accept the Torah on Shavuot, or you want to walk away from Pesach and go back to your regular life. But the preparation starts now. It starts with reading the book of Vayikra. It starts with reading the book of the creating of the house of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Of fixing each and every one of us to a place in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu can call us his home, his dwelling place, in Adam. And especially, Rabotai, this year. This year is what year? Shnat Shmita. What's Shnat Shmita? Shnat Shmita, we all think that it's a year that the 7th year is a mitzvah. But we were thinking today, and we said, it was actually yesterday, Shnat Shmita is not a year of mitzvah. The deed that you're supposed to do is not Shni Shmita at all. It's the 6 years that follow. So you say, how? What is the connection? What was Shemitah here to teach all of us? 6 years we work in the field. We engage in teva. That teva can fool us to think that what is teva? A sequence of events of kochi v'otzem yadi. that what livelihood I bring to my family, it's the hard work I can put with my hands. But if you do that, you're inevitable to going to fall into a bad path of impurity. So what Hashem gave us, He gave us the biggest gift, the readjustment, the wake up, which is what? A year where we understand that even if we don't work, still, HaKadosh Baruch Hu provides. Being that throughout the 6 years, regarding of what we did or what we didn't, it was always Hashem behind it. We have to understand, if we want to bring Geulah on a general level, or even on a level of a personal level, Pati, our problems, our sufferings, our challenges, we need to do so by building a home. V'asu li mishkan v'shachanti betocho. Build me a home in which I could rest my presence within. So Bezrat Hashem, Nimet Avot Tzadikim, Nimet Rabbi Moshe Pinto, Nimet Bet Hashem, the holy Chag of Nisan that is coming. And we all have the merit to become Adam, and as a result of that have the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu dwell within every single aspect of our life. Amen.
We know, כתוב שאתם קרואים אדם, מן היהודים קרואים אדם, הגויים לא קרואים אדם. There any connection, I believe there's a connection between, מכיוון שאתם קרואים אדם ואתם הולכים לפי הירח, נכון? מכיוון שהירח משתנה בדברים האלה. ואנחנו יודעים שהגויים הולכים לפי מה?
שמש.
לפי השמש. אז הם לא קוראים אדם מכיוון שהם הולכים לשמש, הם הולכים לטבע, ואז הם הולכים לשמש.
יפה, כל הכבוד, רבי יעקב. כל הכבוד.
רבי יעקב צדיק.
יש שאלות?
חשבנו על העיקר זה שירת השם. שירת השם, כאילו קדמה לתורה, נכון?
נכון, דרך ארץ קדמה לתורה. דרך ארץ זה להיות האדם לפני התורה. יפה.
שירת השם זה לא רק לפחד מהקדוש ברוך הוא, זה לראות את השם בכל דבר שאתה עושה.
יפה.
לראות את השם, יראת השם.
יפה.
לראות את הקדוש ברוך הוא כל הזמן בטבע, כמו שאתה אומר, לראות את השם, כל הזמן
כל
לראות את
הכבוד.
הקדוש ברוך הוא.
חזק וברוך, כל הכבוד.
עוד הרב.
כן צדיק.
שאלה.
אולי נשאיר שיר רבי יעקב אחר כך? נשאיר שיר אחר כך?
כן.
כן צדיק.
הרב, אני ראיתי באיזה מקום, אני לא זוכר בדיוק איפה, אבל שהפסח הראשון הוא היה בירושלים, לא במצרים. שהליל הסדר הראשון היה בירושלים, אבל לא היה במדבר.
מי עשה את ליל הסדר הראשון?
שאלה?
מי עשה את ליל הסדר הראשון?
עם ישראל. אני חושב שזה...
אבל מי?
זה הרב תנחומה.
אבל מי זה עם ישראל? השבטים, העם?
העם כולו. ככה הוא אומר.
אבל מה עם המצווה של פסח כל שנה בשנה כבר ביציאת מצרים? זה כבר ניתן ביציאת מצרים, המצווה שלו.
כן, אבל הפסח הראשון, רק הליל הסדר הראשון. ככה הוא מביא שהיה בירושלים. עוד הרב, מה למקום כזה?
אנחנו לא ראינו צדיק על דבר כזה.
לא?
אבל אולי, כנראה אתם צודקים, פשוט לא ראינו את זה.
רבנו, אתה אמרת שהעניין של בית המקדש זה היה להביא את הקורבן, נכון?
נכון.
כאילו, הקדוש ברוך הוא יצא לבית המקדש בגלל שאנחנו התקלקלנו במעשינו, ואז הקדוש ברוך הוא יצא לבית המקדש שנוכל להביא קורבן שיהיה לנו מעשה פיזי, ולמעשה אתה יכול כאילו להיפרד מהקורבן ולהגיד לו, תשמע, הקדוש ברוך הוא, הנה הקטע, הנה המקום של הטבע שאליו נדבקתי, קח אותו, תעלה אותו, תשאיר אותי עם המקום הרוחני, שאני אהיה מחובר למקום הרוחני, נכון?
נכון.
עכשיו, אדם פשוט אמרת שגם הבית המקדש נלקח בגלל שזה היה כאילו, אוקיי, האדם חוטא, הולך לבית המקדש, מנסה להביא את הקורבן, הולך חוטא עוד הפעם, כלומר אין בעיה, הוא מרגיש שזה לא...
נכון.
ואז הקדוש ברוך הוא לקח את בית המקדש,
נכון.
והחריב אותו. עכשיו, אתה אמרת שגם לנו היום אנחנו צריכים לעשות את אותה פעולה, להיפרד מהחלק נקרא לזה בהמי, אבל החלק פחות רוחני אצלנו, או החלק היותר טבעי אצלנו, כאילו להיפטר ממנו ולהיות יותר כאילו לקדוש ברוך הוא. אז איך היום בן אדם יעשה את הפעולה הזאת מבחינה פיזית? איך הוא יעשה?
תורה ומצוות. תורה ומצוות. בית המקדש נחרב כי זה לא עבד. אז כנראה הקדוש ברוך הוא, לא, כתוב בית המקדש הראשון, חטאו ב3 עבירות שיהרג ולא יעבור, ובבית המקדש השני היו שונאים אחד את השני. אז כנראה שהקדוש ברוך הוא ראה שהבית המקדש לא עוזר. שיש יותר opportunity, יותר הזדמנות שהאדם יתקן את עצמו בלי בית המקדש, מאשר עם בית המקדש. כי שום דבר לא עזר, זה המשיך עם אותם אותם מעשים הרעים.
כידוע.
כן, רבי שמשון פינקוס אומר, זה היה בן אדם שהיה, נגיד, הולך סתם כי הוא תיאר את זה בספר שלו, כמו אדם שהולך באינטרנט ועושה איזו פעולה של $500,000 להרוויח ביום שבת על איזו פעולה שהוא עושה באינטרנט, והוא מביא קורבן ב$100. אז זאת אומרת, זה עסק לא רע, כאילו, להרוויח $500,000 ולהביא קורבן ב$100, זה לבית דין, כאילו.
אבל כל העניין הזה של בית המקדש, זה לא הולך להיות אנשים... יש לי לימוד גדול על בית המקדש השלישי. מה זה בית המקדש השלישי? ריבון העולם, מה זה? אז כתוב שדוד המלך היה קורא לבית המקדש צוואר. בכמה פעמים בתהילים.
זה מחבר בין הגוף
הצוואר מחבר בין הראש ללב, בין הראש לגוף. כתוב שלעתיד לבוא אנחנו נחיה בחינת דג.
בלי צוואר.
מה זה דג? דג אין בו צוואר. דר הראש והגוף תפוסים יחד בלי צוואר. אז בגלל שאין בהם צורך של צוואר, הגוף והראש יהיו מאוחדים אחד. ככה יהיה לעתיד לבוא. אז שכתוב שבית המקדש השלישי תרד מהשמיים, אנחנו חושבים דבר פשוט. עד עכשיו הקדוש ברוך הוא לא הוריד שום בניין משמיים. הוא לא הוריד. שהמשכן היה צריך להיברא, הוא אמר לבני ישראל תבנו. שבית המקדש היה צריך להיברא, הוא אמר לשלמה ולדוד תבנו. שבית המקדש השני אמר לחתם סופר, לעזרא הסופר, תבנו. אז פתאום הוא יזרוק בניין מהשמיים.
אבל אולי הכוונה רבנו שבית המקדש השלישי ירד מהשמיים, שזה ירד מהשמיים, זאת אומרת, לא יהיה במושג של שמיים, זה ירד מהשמיים. כאילו אם חשבתם שזה ירד מהשמיים, שלא, זה לא ירד מהשמיים, זאת אומרת, זה ירד מהמושג שמיים.
אנחנו חשבנו לומר דבר כזה. חשבנו לומר, מה זה ירד? שהשכינה של הקדוש ברוך הוא תרד משמיים. שהיא תשכון בתוך כל אחד ואחד ממנו.
לא, אבל זה לא מהמושג של שמיים, זה להפך, זה יבוא מהמושג של אנחנו נהפוך את הטבע לזה, שזה לא יבוא
זה האמת. נגרום שהארץ יהיה גן עדן, זה מה שהיה לפני החטא.
האדם כי יקריב מכם קורבן, מה זה מכם?
ממכם.
את עצמכם.
אבל האדם זה כל נשמות ישראל כלולות בתוכו.
זה עניין מסובך מאוד.
אבל אם כל נשמות ישראל כלולות בתוך האדם, אז אולי בית המקדש, זה מחצית השקל שהם נתנו, וזה חצי ממני וחצי ממכם, הוא יצר...
עניין האדם הראשון נשמה, זה עניין, אנחנו כותבים על זה כבר כמה חודשים, ולא מצליחים להגיע לנקודה שאומרים אני שבע.
שמה?
ששבעים. משהו שם חסר, צריך הרבה...
וזה קושר את כל נושא של פורים.
וגם הגויים בזמנו.
וזה קושר את כל נושא של פורים, שבפורים יש את כל הביטול מבחינה הזאת, כמו כבוד הרב.
פורים זה הכנה לפסח, פסח זה הכנה לשבועות, לקבלת התורה, הרוחניות.
כן, כבוד הרב דיבר על הנושא של פורים, מה זה פורים? פורים מהבחינה עד לא ידע, כל הדברים האלה מבחינת הזאת של...
עולם הבא.
בדיוק.
עולם הבא, זה עולם הבא. פורים זה הכנה בכדי לקבל עולם הבא בפסח, ובפסח אפילו שאנחנו מקבלים את הנס, זה עוד לא שלנו. זה עוד לא שייך לנו. צריכים to earn it. צריך לעבוד בשביל זה. כן צדיק.
You mentioned about, for example, Korban Chatat. The question that I have, Korban Chatat, they only bring it if the guy did it in Shogeg. But if the guy did it Avera B'Mezid, then he really needs to bring Korban to go back to the level of Adam. Why doesn't he bring a Korban for Mezid?
You know, we even say that even the Mezid, we have some sort of ownership of it.
בשוגג.
Mechila b'shogeg. You have ownership, responsibility b'shogeg. You cannot run away. You did something to cause something to occur. So that needs to be cleaned. That needs to be cleaned. איפה היינו? במזיד, את כמה וכמה. For מזיד. But בשוגג, you have to clean yourself. The example is like this. Even a man doing a mitzvah. The example that we found is Yaakov in Alav Shalom. It said Yaakov, he took Rachel, נכון? And he took מחילה. He took the brachot from Esav. When he took the brachot from Esav, there's a chashash there. Did he lie? Did he not lie? He said, I'm Esav. So there was a little bit of chasash of dirt. When he took Leah and Esav and Lavan tricked him, the Midrash says in Yalkut Shimoni that Leah attacked him. Because Yaakov said, why did you do this to me? I'm a good person. Why? So what did Leah say? You did it to Esav. This happened to you. Yes. So the question is, how can you be punished for what he did with Esav when it said that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was behind it? It even says in Yalkut Shimoni that Esav was catching animals and Hashem would send an angel to release them. To keep Esav in the field, to stall him, לשמור אותו עסוק. כל דבר שעשו היה עושה, היה מלאך בא ומעכב אותו. He would slow him down.
To buy time for Yaakov.
So it's משמיים. הקדוש ברוך הוא called יעקב יעקב. It says in the Zohar הקדוש, Yitzchak did not name Yaakov. It was Hashem. And Hashem called him Yaakov ki kivani. Twice, meaning it was already written from Shamayim, from before he was born and he would that sin. So why punish him with Leah if that sin or dirt was not bad at all?
If you consider that a punishment.
Of course it was. It was 14 years. It was.
If you consider this a punishment.
It's a big sod. כנראה רבי יוסף ראה עוד שיעור שדיברנו על הנקודה הזאת.
זה היה מוזייר. אתה יותר גבוה, אבל היה יותר גבוה.
זה היה שיעור יפה מאוד, נשארתי עד שעה 11:30 בלילה לשמוע את זה.
כנראה שהשם. So רגע. No, ודאי קורבן מזיד. Of course. There's no question.
What is קורבן מזיד?
אתם הולכים רבי דולב.
אני אומר לך, אני לא בדעות השם
אנחנו אוהבים אתכם צדיק. שהקדוש ברוך הוא בעצם מברך אתכם.
אין לנו קורבן מזיד ביקרא.
חטאת.
חטאת ושוקי.
אין בו קורבן, זה עניין יפה.
קופי, טי, קייק,
לא.
קופי. עולה קופי.
ערק.
בטח.
חצי אבוחצירה, חצי אי אפשר. אז רגע, זה עניין מאוד יפה, אבל יש גם עניין שבאיזה מקום התשובה של החטא משנה את האופי של החטא עצמו. אז אולי יש שעצם הנקודה שמלכתחילה היה בו איזושהי התעוררות של תשובה, החטא שבו כבר לא נהייתה חזקה של מזיד. אפשר לומר את זה על סמך מה? על סמך מה שכתוב, שאנחנו רואים, החטא הזה מות יומת, החטא הזה מות יומת, החטא הזה מות יומת. אבל במציאות כתוב בגמרא, שאחת לכל 60 שנים, פעם בכל 60 שנים, כן, פעם בכל 60 שנים היו מוצאים אחד להורג. אז זה אומר שאנשים לא היו חוטאים?
אבל היו עוד דומים שהעלו קורבנות באותם תקופה.
כל מיני קורבנות.
כל מיני קורבנות. זאת אומרת, העניין של הקורבנות היה קיים גם אצל המצרים, אצל שאר העמים.
לא, חס ושכן, הם חיכו בנו, חיכו.
זהו, זה מה שהשאלה, מי חיכה את מי? האם להם הם... יש סברה שהם העלו קורבנות הרבה לפנינו.
מברך אותך, תגיד את כל משפחתכם בעזרת השם. הגויים חיכו, מחכים אותנו בהכל. אפילו כתוב בגמרא שהאדם הראשון עשה 2 חגים. הם היו חגים שהגמרא אומרת היו קודש קודשים. בגלל שהדורות שבאו אחריו לקחו אותם ועשו אותם עבודה זרה, ביטלו את החגים הללו. בעזרת השם. כן, צדיק. אתם עמית? עמית?
No, Daniel.
דניאל. מי זה עמית? מה צריך להיות פה היום דווקא?
עמית, I kind of look like him.
עמית הוא איתנו, הוא כותב לנו את אלון אחותי ואף פעם לא ראינו אותו. רק בטלפון. כן, צדיק, חבר.
I wanted to know why we read Parashat Parah.
עניין פרה זה דבר עמוק ביותר. למה?
Now I love you more.
איפה של רבי יעקב.